Hi, this is Ricky Yates, Technical Services Manager for GGS Pro in Griffin. Today's short video, we're going to talk about effective ways to control Pythium, at the same time practicing good resistance management practices. Anytime we're having a technical discussion that involves pesticides, we like to remind growers that the pesticide label is the law, and it's the grower's responsibility to read and follow the entire pesticide label. We're going to be mentioning products you have a lot of confidence in, but there could be, and usually are, other pesticides that may be safe, legal, and effective as well. At the time of this recording, we're just about at the height of the garden mum season, and with the hot soil temperatures, we're getting a lot of calls on Pythium control, and many of these growers are reaching for Subdue Max because they've always done that, and they're finding it doesn't work quite as well as it used to. And that kind of leads us into our discussion on resistance. Here you find the major modes of action. I've not included the microbial products, and which we'll get to in just a minute. But as we go from left to right, Subdue Max, as I mentioned previously, is really having some resistance issues. A good example on garden mums. Pythium ephaneromatum, which is known as the hot weather Pythium, is very aggressive, is really highly resistant to Subdue Max. Fenstop is actually a strobiluron, and the only one that I would rate as having really high activity against Pythium. So we suggest Fenstop, even though it's more expensive than some of the others on this page, to rotate that in to make sure that we are maintaining good control for years to come. The next one, mode of action 14, they all have the active ingredient etradiazole in them. It's a powerful Pythium product, can be a little hard on young plants. We don't use it early in the crop cycle, usually in the middle of the crop when the plant is most mature and most vigorous, but these are all very good Pythium knockdown products here. Segway is the one that really is, for a lot of good reasons, due to plant safety and relatively low use rates and so forth, and high effectiveness, has really kind of taken over. And we like Segway a lot also. The warning here is that we can't use Segway only and often, or we'll end up with a similar situation where we have a Subdue Max right now. Clean Grow, kind of a novel product. It's actually a quaternary ammonia compound. It's a fourth generation product, and I'd like to see more research on just how effective it is against Pythium. But there's at least one study where Ann Chase tank mixed Clean Grow with Subdue Max, and that combination worked extremely well. So Clean Grow, we're taking a closer look at for Pythium, and in the days and months to follow, we'll let you know what we find. So these are all things that we want to consider to make sure that we are rotating wisely and making the best use of the modes of action you do have. As you can see, it's not a real broad palette there, so we need to be careful. We do want to talk about biofungicides, and represented on this list are some fungal-based products, some bacterial-based products. And what I wanted to point out here is that all of them are labeled to control Pythium, and we believe they're all effective at that. So there's a wide palette of biofungicides out there available to us. It's really important that we mention, as of today, all of these products are certainly preventative. We're not going to come from behind. If you've got mums going down or poinsettias going down to Pythium in the field, we need to clean that up with a traditional chemical fungicide first, and then we have that option of following up with a biofungicide. We like to apply them either close to planting or soon after planting, or after a chemical treatment, as I just mentioned, when it kind of wipes everything out, we got a clean palette, we can introduce the biofungicides there. Most of them are fairly long lasting. Most of them also are compatible to a wide variety of chemical fungicides. So if you commit yourself to using biofungicides and you do get some Pythium showing up, there are options that we can apply over the top of that biological fungicide that don't wipe it out, but will clean up that hotspot that you have. Something really interesting, and we have been looking, as GGS Pro, we've been looking at biostimulants with a lot more detail. There's a lot of them available, and some data is finally becoming available that lets us know that in a lot of cases there's activity there. What's really interesting is that almost all these biofungicides that were in the previous slide have some type of biostimulant effect. Some of them, they chelate the micronutrients in the media, in other words, making them more readily available. Some work by reducing abiotic stresses, so there's things like temperature stress and moisture stress, things like that, high soluble salt stress in some cases. So a lot going on here. So biofungicides do have a lot to recommend themselves. They also help us because it's a totally different mode of action from the chemicals, so we're not contributing to the resistance issues there. This is some research done by a friend of mine, Dr. Michelle Jones from Ohio State University, and she is really one of the researchers that's taken the bull by the horns in terms of trying to quantify biostimulants. And you might find this really interesting that cease, which is a biological fungicide and actually a bactericide, in her trial here actually enhanced the growth. Now, if you look to the far left, you'll see they were only feeding these petunias at 50 parts per million, and the plants that didn't have any type of treatment look like petunias that have been fed at 50 parts per million. Not a lot of growth going on there, but look at cease. Even at that very low rate of fertilizer, is growing and flowering quite well. Now, to the right of that, Myco-Apply All-Purpose, that is a mycorrhizae, and you can see that benefited the plant as well, not as much as the cease. Now, we know that mycorrhizae takes a longer period of time to establish, so that early in the crop cycle, the full benefits of the mycorrhizae haven't arrived yet, but you can see significant improvements there. And here's the same two products, but applied to two different crops. And what Michelle's doing here was showing the difference that different crops respond differently to biostimulants. But here's cease, again, a biofungicide. That's a great looking petunia, if you ask me. You can clearly see the difference compared to the control plants on the zinnias as well from both treatments. If you have any questions about this video, feel free to reach out to us. You can see our technical group email, as well as our phone number and extension there. I'd be happy to assist you in any way. And we also will encourage you, if you have any ideas for future videos, to please let us know. Thank you.